imagine. It's 7:42 in the evening, Tuesday. You're scrolling through news on your phone when suddenly, a click. Everything sinks into darkness, dead silence. Your router no longer blinks. The hum of the refrigerator fades away. And in this instant darkness, you realize something terrifying. You have no idea what to do next. But this is what distinguishes the survivors from the victims in a power outage. It is not luck. These are not dreams of things getting better. These are 9 specific rules that turn chaos into control, panic into strength. While your neighbors wander in the dark, arguing about dead phones, you will execute a plan that could literally save your life. Most people think that a power outage is just an inconvenience. They are mistaken, fatally mistaken. When Hurricane Sandy struck New York in 2012, people died not from wind or water, but from carbon monoxide poisoning, hypothermia, and dehydration. All of this could have been prevented. It was all because they didn't know these rules. So if you want to be the one who stays calm while everyone else loses their head, keep watching. What I am about to share is not just survival tips, it is your insurance against becoming another victim statistic. Let me explain why most people catastrophically fail when the lights go out. They perceive the power outage as a temporary pause in their usual life. They sit, waiting for someone else to fix everything. They assume help is on the way. They drain their phone's battery, posting on social media about how terrible everything is. Meanwhile, time slips away, and here is the harsh reality that most people do not understand. Modern society is just 3 days away from complete collapse without electricity. 3 days. That is how long it takes for grocery stores to empty, gas stations to close, and sewage treatment plants to fail. The frost in Texas in 2021 proved this. When the power grid collapsed, people boiled snow for drinking water, burned furniture to stay warm, and some froze to death in their own homes in America in the 21st century because they thought someone else would solve their problems. But here's what the prepared survivors did differently. They had systems. They had plans. They had practiced these 9 rules that I am going to tell you about, and while their neighbors were calling for help, they were already 3 steps ahead. The truth is that in the event of a massive power outage, you are left alone with the problem. Fire services are overwhelmed. The police cannot respond to every call. Hospitals are running on backup power that won't last forever. There will be no rescuers. You must take care of yourself. And it begins with the understanding that the first 30 minutes after the power goes out are the most critical. What you do in those first 30 minutes will determine whether you become a survivor or a statistic, whether you take control of the situation or lose it completely. Let's move on to the first rule, because a mistake here could cost you everything. Rule number 1, immediately execute the 3-minute light protocol. Don't put it off, act immediately. Why is this more important than you think? When darkness falls without warning, 3 things happen simultaneously. Panic grips people, accidents multiply, and predators begin to hunt. Yes, predators. When the light goes out, wolves come out to hunt. However, most people waste precious minutes trying to find a phone or flashlight, stumbling over furniture, and trying to understand whether it is just their area or something more. By the time they organize, the psychological advantage is already lost. The 3 minutes protocol works as follows. You have exactly 3 minutes to gain full control over the lighting in your living space, not just in one room, but in every important room. Here is the sequence of actions. Take your main flashlight, which should be within reach of the place where you spend most of your time. This is your command light. Use it to reach the lighting you have. Yes, the lighting. You should have backup light sources strategically placed throughout the house. Battery-powered lanterns in the living room, kitchen, and master bedroom. Glow sticks in the bathrooms because they are waterproof and shine for several hours. But here is an advanced step that many overlook. After you illuminate the interior, you must control the visibility from outside. Close all curtains, draw all blinds, darken every window, because in case of a mass blackout, a brightly lit house looks like a neon sign. We have supplies. Come and take them. The psychological impact of controlled lighting is colossal. When you see everything clearly while chaos reigns around you, you automatically become a leader. Your family looks to you for support, your mind remains clear, decision-making improves, and you win the first battle before most people realize they are already at war. Time check. If you did everything right, 3 minutes have passed since the lights went out, and you are already acting from a position of strength while the neighbors are still wondering, "Honey, where's the flashlight?" Rule number 2. Employ the water fortress strategy within 10 minutes after the lights go out. Because after light, water is your most critically important resource, and the time to secure it is quickly running out. This is what many do not realize. When the energy system fails, water supply can continue for 6 to 12 hours before it starts to fail. Water purification stations lose electricity. Pumping stations stop, pressure drops, and suddenly the faucet you trusted your entire life stops providing water. The water fortress strategy is simple but requires immediate action. You will turn your home into a water storage facility using what you already have. Every large bucket becomes a reservoir. Fill the bathtub, that's 30 to 50 gallons. Fill every sink, every pot, every pitcher, every bucket you have. But here is the critical part. While you gather supplies, you need to ensure their purification, because even if the tap water is clean now, there is no guarantee it will remain so. Water treatment stations cannot operate without electricity. Therefore, every gallon of water you collect must be purified. Add a water purification tablet to each container or a few drops of odorless bleach, just 2 or 3 drops per gallon. This is not about taste, but about not dying from dysentery in 3 days. Here are your mathematical realities. You need 1 gallon per person per day just for drinking. Add cooking and hygiene, and you will need 1.5 to 2 gallons per person daily. Do you have a family of 4? You need at least 8 gallons a day. For a week of disconnection, this will amount to 56 gallons. Suddenly, the bathtub doesn't seem excessive, but the preparation strategy includes not only collecting water. You need sustainable sources. Organize rainwater collection using buckets, tarps, or any items with a clean surface. If you have a water heater, that's another 30 to 50 gallons of backup water. Just don't forget to close the shutoff valve first. The prepared survivors I know can provide over 100 gallons of clean drinking water within the first hour after the power goes out. While others are still figuring out the situation, they have already addressed their most critical survival need. Now, before moving on to the third rule, I need to share something that can significantly increase your chances of survival. In this video, I share the main rules that will help you survive when the electricity goes out. But if you want to get a complete survival plan, including an exact list of necessary supplies, detailed protocols, and advanced strategies that I personally use, I have prepared a comprehensive survival guide that is much deeper than what I can cover in one video. This is not just a general brochure on emergency preparedness. It is a precise step-by-step system that I developed by studying real scenarios of power outages, interviewing disaster survivors, and testing these methods myself. She includes precise calculations of supplies for different family sizes, specific brands, and models of equipment that actually work in extreme conditions, and advanced psychological tactics that help families stay calm during prolonged outages. You can find out more about this in the link in the description. This is the same system that has helped thousands of families transition from helplessness to readiness. Because the truth is that when the lights go out for real, you don't want to deal with the situation on the fly. You need a proven plan that can be implemented automatically. So let's return to how to save your life. Rule number 3 concerns food, and if you make a mistake in this, your family will remain hungry while neighbors loot grocery stores. Rule number 3. Master the distribution of food and cooking without electricity before your refrigerator becomes a source of danger. When the power goes out, you will have a very short window of time before your food supplies become your biggest burden. This is the harsh reality. Your refrigerator can maintain a safe temperature for about 4 hours if you don't open it. The freezer can keep food for 24 to 48 hours if it is full and you don't open it. After this, you risk creating a breeding ground for bacteria that could send your family to the hospital. So you need to act like on a battlefield. Sort it out. What needs to be eaten immediately? What can be saved? What needs to be thrown away before it poisons you? The first priority is ready food leftovers, dairy products, and anything containing mayonnaise. These items spoil quickly and can cause serious food poisoning. Use them first or throw them away. The second priority is fresh meat, fish, and poultry. Prepare them immediately if you have the means, or preserve with salt if you plan to store them long-term. But this is where most people completely fail. They have no way to cook without electricity. Your electric stove is now just an expensive countertop. The microwave is not working. The coffee machine is not brewing coffee. If you are unprepared for this, You will soon learn what it's like to eat cold canned food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Cooking without electricity is not that difficult, but it requires the right tools. A portable gas stove with extra canisters is your best friend. It can boil water, cook rice, reheat soup, and even fry eggs. Just make sure to use it outdoors or in a well-ventilated area because carbon monoxide can kill you faster than hunger. Solar ovens are another solution that many overlook. Yes, they are slower than conventional ovens, but they work entirely on solar energy and can bake bread, roast meat, and cook stews using only sunlight. I used to cook entire meals on that stove when the electricity was on, just to keep my skills sharp. Here's an advanced tip. Create a meal plan for 72 hours using only non-perishable foods and your alternative cooking methods. Train now while there is electricity, because when the crisis comes, you won't want to read instructions by flashlight. Canned goods will be your staple. Soups, stews, chili, vegetables. Add rice, pasta, and dried beans for bulk and calories. Peanut butter, crackers, and granola bars require no preparation at all. And this is what most people forget: comfort food. When your world is turned upside down, familiar flavors bring psychological comfort that is worth its weight in gold. Rule number 4. Win the battle against the temperature before it kills you. Because regardless of whether it's a hot summer or a freezing cold winter, losing control of your environment is a death sentence. Let's start with the cold, because hypothermia is a treacherous killer. It does not manifest with sharp symptoms. You simply become tired, confused, and clumsy until you find yourself in a situation from which there is no escape. Each winter blackout causes people to perish in their homes, trying to heat the entire space instead of thinking strategically. Here are your winter survival recommendations. Choose one room and turn it into your survival shelter. Usually, it's the smallest bedroom or living room. Cover it with blankets, plastic sheets, anything that can block drafts and retain heat. You no longer live in your house, you live in this room. Layer up. Wear several sets of clothes. Wrap yourself in sleeping bags meant for cold weather. Use emergency thermal blankets. But here's the trick. Don't just wrap yourself in them. Hang them on the walls and windows to reflect heat back into your space. The warmth of your body is your main source of heating. So gather together. People are mostly walking heaters, producing about 100 watts of heat each. 2 people in a sealed room can raise the temperature by a few degrees just from their combined heat. But here is an advanced technique: thermal mass. Heat bricks, stones, or even bottles of water using an alternative cooking method. Then bring them into your heated space. They will act as radiators, slowly releasing accumulated heat for several hours. Just be careful not to burn yourself. First, wrap them in towels. Now let's talk about summer. Since heat kills more people in America each year than hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and lightning combined, when your air conditioning system breaks down and the temperature rises, your home becomes an oven. Your daytime strategy is to create a heat barrier. Close all the curtains and drapes. Use reflective materials like emergency blankets or aluminum foil to block windows that receive direct sunlight. Seal the house during the day to prevent hot air from entering. But when the sun sets, do everything in reverse. Open the windows on opposite sides of your house to create a draft. Use battery-operated fans to move the air. Even a slight breeze can make the temperature 10 degrees more comfortable. Here's a cooling trick that most people don't know about: evaporative cooling. Hang wet towels in front of open windows. As the air passes through them, evaporation cools it down by a few degrees. You can also make cold compresses using frozen vegetables, or fill bottles with water and freeze them while you still have electricity. Your basement becomes your refuge in the summer heat. Underground spaces remain significantly cooler, sometimes 20 or 30 degrees below the outside temperature. If you have a basement, it is your refuge when the temperature becomes dangerous. Important safety warning: never use charcoal grills, gas stoves, or kerosene heaters indoors to cope with the cold. Carbon monoxide kills quietly and quickly. Every winter, families who made this deadly mistake are admitted to emergency rooms. Rule number 5. Establish your communication channel before being cut off from the world. In the event of a power outage, information is not just power, it is survival. Your smartphone is likely your primary means of communication. But here is the problem. Cell towers run on backup batteries that can last 8 to 24 hours without power. After that, your phone becomes an expensive paperweight. Moreover, even if the towers are functioning, the networks get overloaded when everyone tries to make calls or send messages at the same time. That is why experienced, prepared people never rely solely on one means of communication. You need several backup systems ready for immediate use. First of all, you should have a battery-operated or hand-crank radio, not for entertainment, but for receiving information in emergencies. Radio format N, AAA, AM, and FM station frequencies, emergency broadcasting frequencies. These devices do not depend on cell towers or internet connections. When all other means of communication fail, radio waves can still be transmitted. But what many overlook is the possibility of two-way communication. Radios with a decent range can connect you with family members, neighbors, or other prepared people in your area. Some models have a range of several miles and are completely independent of infrastructure. To keep your phone running, solar chargers and hand crank chargers become real finds. Solar chargers work even on cloudy days, just slower. Hand crank chargers allow you to manually generate electricity. 15 minutes of cranking usually provides enough power for an emergency call. Here is an advanced communication strategy. Create a communication schedule with family members before any emergency situation occurs. Set specific times for check-ins and determine the methods you will use. Plan backup meeting spots in case you can't contact each other via email. When chaos reigns, a pre-prepared plan eliminates uncertainty and panic. Don't forget about your car. If it has fuel, it becomes a mobile communication hub. Car radios can receive signals over much greater distances than portable devices. Additionally, you can charge phones through a 12-volt socket while the engine is running. Paper backups are extremely important. Keep a printed list of important phone numbers, family, friends, doctors, insurance companies, local emergency services. Do not rely solely on the phone directory. When batteries die or devices are damaged, paper still works. For extreme situations, satellite communicators can send messages even without any local infrastructure. They are not cheap, but they work anywhere on Earth and can make a real difference between rescue and isolation. Here is another point that many never think about. Signaling devices. Whistles, mirrors, flares, even bright flashlights can attract attention when electronic communication fails. The sound of a whistle can be heard much farther than your voice and requires no batteries. Rule number 6. Build your medical fortress before diseases and injuries turn manageable problems into life threats. Because when the power goes out, a simple scratch can become a serious infection, and a lack of prescription medications can be fatal. Let's start with medications, as this is where people die from entirely preventable causes. If you take prescription drugs, insulin, heart medications, blood pressure medications, or anything critically important, you need backup cooling systems. Many medications spoil quickly at room temperature, and turning off the refrigerator can be a real sentence. Battery-powered coolers or quality thermoses with ice packs can maintain the required temperature for several days. But here is a useful tip. Regularly update your medical supplies. Always have a 30-day stock, store it properly, and use the oldest medications first, replenishing with new ones. Your first aid kit should include not only basic bandages. Consider what injuries are most likely during a power outage. Cuts from broken glass, burns from candles or alternative heat sources, strains from moving in the dark, and food poisoning from spoiled products. Stock up on antiseptics, bandages of various sizes, burn gel, pain relievers, anti-diarrheal medications, and antibiotics if you can get them. But what is truly critical? Know how to use everything in your kit. A first aid kit that you do not understand just takes up space and is of no use. Hygiene becomes a medical problem when normal systems cease to function. Without hot water and proper sanitation, bacterial infections spread rapidly. Stock up on wet wipes, hand sanitizers, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and feminine hygiene products. This is not a luxury, but a medical necessity. Waste management is something no one wants to think about, but it is critically important for preventing diseases. If toilets stop working due to pump failures, you need a plan. Plastic bags, sawdust, or cat litter for absorption, as well as a designated waste area away from living and food supplies. Mental health is also a medical issue. Prolonged power outages create immense psychological stress. Depression, anxiety, and panic attacks can become serious medical emergencies. Engaging in activities that reduce stress, such as books, games, musical instruments, and art supplies is not just entertainment. It is essential for maintaining psychological stability. Here is an advanced medical strategy. Identify the nearest hospitals and emergency care centers. Learn about their backup power capabilities. Some medical facilities have generators that can run for several days. Others may last only a few hours. In a serious emergency, this knowledge can save lives. People with chronic illnesses require special planning. If someone in your family needs oxygen therapy, dialysis, or other medical equipment that runs on electricity, you need backup plans that do not depend on the power grid. This may mean portable oxygen concentrators, manual dialysis options, or pre-arranged transport to facilities with reliable backup power. Rule number 7. Establish your safety zone before despair turns neighbors into threats. When civilization begins to collapse, the difference between predator and prey often comes down to preparedness and perception. Here is the unpleasant truth. During prolonged power outages, crime rates sharply increase. People become desperate, ordinary social contracts break down, and your prepared home becomes a target for those who did not plan ahead. But safety is not turning your home into a fortress. It is about how to become a difficult target while still being able to help sincere neighbors in trouble. Physical security begins with your entry points: locks, protective grills, reinforced door frames. However, when the power goes out, electronic security systems stop working. Therefore, you will have to return to the basics: mechanical locks, wooden door braces, and noise alarms that will alert you to attempts of intrusion. This is a psychological safety strategy that many ignore. Controlled visibility. You want to appear busy and alert, but not wealthy or overly affluent. Dim light visible from outside creates the impression that someone is home while conserving resources. Bright lights scream, "We have plenty of supplies. Come and take them." Your safety zone extends beyond your property. Get to know your neighbors before emergencies happen. Who can you trust? Who might become a problem? In what houses do elderly people live who might need help? Information is safety, and community relationships are your early warning system. Discipline in noise becomes critically important. Generators, radio transmitters, even conversations can be heard much further when the background noise from traffic and air conditioners disappears. Sound travels differently in a power outage, and demonstrating one's activity can attract unwanted attention. But here is the most important safety principle. Do not be the only prepared house in your neighborhood. Instead of hoarding everything, help a few trusted neighbors develop basic readiness. A prepared neighborhood is safer than one prepared house surrounded by desperate people. Safety of movement is also important. If you need to go outside, do so in daylight when possible. Move in pairs or groups. Change routes and times of movement. Avoid displaying supplies or equipment that indicate your preparedness. Communication security is something that most people never think about. Do not discuss the level of your supplies, generator fuel, or food in two-way radio transmissions or conversations that may be overheard. Operational security is not paranoia, but a rational management of risks. Here is a more complex concept of security. Create the illusion of multiple people, even if you are alone or have a small family. Different voices on radios, varied lighting schemes, random movements at different windows. Predators prefer easy targets, and a house that looks well protected will be avoided in favor of easier opportunities. Rule number 8. Learn to multiply resources before scarcity forces you into survival mode. Because the difference between thriving and barely surviving lies in the ability to make the small become great. Multiplying resources does not mean having unlimited supplies. It is about how to use what you have most effectively through wise use, conservation, and creative rethinking. Let's start with multiplying energy. One battery can power several devices if you approach its use strategically. LEDs consume only a small fraction of the energy required for incandescent bulbs. Hand-cranked lanterns generate energy without depleting batteries. Solar lanterns charge during the day and provide light all night without draining your emergency battery. However, there is one clever method that most people overlook: capturing and redistributing heat. The gas stove serves not only for cooking, but also as a source of heat. Prepare food, and then use the residual heat to warm water for washing or drinking. Boil water in the largest pot, then pour it into smaller containers that will serve as personal heaters for several hours. Water multiplication techniques can significantly increase your supplies. Gray water obtained from washing dishes or hands can be used for watering plants or flushing toilets. Rainwater collection systems can endlessly increase your reserves. Even condensate from air conditioners or dehumidifiers can be turned into usable water with the right filtration. Strategies for multiplying products transform basic ingredients into a multitude of dishes. One jar of tomato sauce can become pasta sauce, a base for soup, and pizza sauce. Rice dishes can stretch meat portions to feed more people. Sprouting seeds creates fresh vegetables from dry food supplies, increasing both nutrients and food volume. Here is an advanced multiplication principle. Cross-functional supplies. Each item in your emergency kit should have multiple uses. Double-sided tape can be used for repairs, fastening, insulation, and marking. Plastic films create vapor barriers, surfaces for collecting rainwater, and screens for privacy. Blankets provide warmth, sound insulation, and light control. Multiplying skills is a powerful catalyst. Basic repair skills allow you to fix things instead of replacing them. Knowledge of food preservation turns perishable products into long-term supplies. Medical training allows you to treat injuries rather than just hoping for their healing. Social multiplication implies using community resources through cooperation rather than competition. Exchanging skills, tools, and knowledge with trusted neighbors creates a resource pool much larger than what a single household can sustain. Conserving energy is a multiplication of resources, using daylight instead of battery lamps, preparing several dishes simultaneously for maximum fuel efficiency, combining actions to minimize energy consumption. Every saved watt is a watt available for more critical needs in the future. This is what most people never consider: the psychological multiplication of resources. Maintaining morale and hope increases your family's ability to endure hardships. Games, music, stories, and adherence to routine create psychological resources that help people cope with prolonged difficulties. Rule number 9, implement escalation protocols before the situation spirals out of control. Understanding when to stay put, when to move, and when to call for help can be a crucial factor between survival and becoming just another statistic. Most people think that surviving a power outage is simply waiting for the situation to end. However, prolonged power outages develop in predictable stages, and your reaction should correspond to these stages. The first stage is the first 24 hours. During this period, you follow rules from 1 to 8, providing lighting, water, food, temperature control, and communication. Most people think these are temporary difficulties and continue to lead their usual lives. But the wise survivors use this time to prepare for longer scenarios. The second phase begins around the second or third day. At this time, failures in the supply chain become evident. Stores are emptying, gas stations are closing, and people are starting to panic. Your actions must shift from preparation to resource conservation. Ration everything, reduce energy consumption, strengthen security measures. The third stage begins around the 4th to 7th day. Social order begins to break down. Crime is increasing. Municipal services are becoming unreliable. It is at this moment that you must make a decision to stay put or move to a safer place. Your course of action should be predetermined. If violence in your area escalates, at what point will you decide to leave? If the water supply becomes unreliable, where will you go? If there are more medical emergencies than you can handle, how will you get help? Emergency evacuation backpacks become critically important at the third stage. These are not just tourist backpacks. These are carefully selected survival kits that allow you to move quickly while maintaining vital functions. Clean water, shelter, food, medical supplies, communication tools, and important documents, all in a format that is easy to carry. But here's what is often overlooked in evacuation advice. You need several evacuation plans: the main route, a backup route, and an alternative in case things go wrong. Practice these routes in normal times. Study the terrain, available resources, and potential bottlenecks where you might get stuck. Alarm protocols should also escalate. In the first stage, this may involve sending messages to family members. The second stage requires radio communication and pre-established check-in schedules. In the third stage, signal flares, mirrors for signaling, or satellite devices may be needed to call for help. Medical escalation protocols require decisions that can cost lives. When should one take the risk and set out for a medical facility? How to determine whether to evacuate a person or to stay put. These decisions cannot be made in haste. They require prior planning and clear criteria. Here is another advanced concept of escalation: supply points. Create resource caches in strategically important locations between your home and evacuation sites. hidden supplies that will allow you to replenish during evacuation or provide backup resources if you cannot reach the main destination. Escalation in the community implies that neighboring families work together as the situation worsens. Joint security, pooling resources, and coordinated actions are only possible if relationships and protocols are established before the crisis begins. The hardest decision in the escalation process is to understand when to leave your prepared position, your home, your supplies, and your comfort zone. But sometimes staying put becomes more dangerous than leaving. The presence of predefined criteria for such a decision removes emotions from choices concerning life and death. We discussed 9 rules that can save your life in case of a power outage. But simply watching this video is not enough. Knowledge without action is merely entertainment. And when a real emergency happens, you won't have time to figure things out on the go. Here is your homework. Choose 3 rules from this video and implement them this week. Not someday, but this week. Check your flashlight. Calculate your water storage capacity. Practice cooking without electricity, because the time to realize your plan isn't working is not during an emergency. Remember that comprehensive survival guide I mentioned earlier? It contains everything we discussed today, plus dozens of additional strategies, lists of necessary supplies, and real scenarios that you can practice with your family. And if this video has opened your eyes to your unpreparedness, then this guide can be the best investment this year. Share this video with those you care about, because survival is not an individual sport. The more prepared people in your community, the safer everyone will be. Press the like button if this information was useful to you, and subscribe for more content that could literally save your life, because when the power goes out, and it will, you will be ready. While others panic, you will act. While others improvise, you will apply proven strategies. The difference between chaos and control lies in preparedness. And now you have a roadmap. Take care, be ready, and see you in the next video.